Welcome everyone to today's webinar. I'll just give everyone just a few seconds to join. I can see people coming in as we speak. We've got a large audience from all over the world today, so I'll give them just a minute or two to get joined this afternoon, or this morning, I should say, depending on where you are. In the meantime, let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I will have a very small role today just to help with the Q&A session towards the end. But I'm the co-CEO of and co-founder of MyCaribou, and it's a global medtech platform that will help you grow your partnerships really through existing partnerships as well as new ones, growing your sales, reducing your costs, helping you explore new markets, and fairly soon in the fall we're going to be releasing our foreign exchange and volatility management solution, which has been really well received by people that are waitlisted for that now as we launch that. In terms of bios, so let me just give you a quick overview of Susan and Paul. So Susan is a Senior Director of Sales and Marketing with Karl Storz in Canada. As a sales executive with 30 plus years spanning the medical device and pharmaceutical industry, Susan has worked previously with Baxter, Cardinal Health, Teva Pharmaceuticals, and Becton Dickinson. And now at Karl Storz, Endoscopy Canada, Susan's the Senior Director of Sales and Marketing. Paul Hembrow is a Senior Account Executive with CHG Meridian, which is a global company. I'm sure Paul will talk more about this as they have their discussion. But Paul is a highly accomplished professional with extensive experience in sales and marketing. With CHG, he plays a crucial role in driving business growth and achieving revenue targets. And prior to his role at CHG, he had held various senior positions in sales and marketing, accumulating a wealth of experience in local and international healthcare markets.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate the introduction. And Susan, I want to thank you and welcome you here today. We thought we'd do a bit of more of a fireside chat. So we are in person doing this, which is great to have and to be a part of today.
Nice to be in person.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll kind of start off with the COVID pandemic, which wreaked havoc globally, both financially, logistically, and emotionally. What have you seen in Canada and North America as the outcome of your business?
So really, it's it's interesting. When we came back from COVID, it was a really gradual comeback, with surgery starting to commence and understanding that the capital just had not been replaceable, and they were struggling because there was limited budgets and they needed some new capital, and that's where they kind of came back to us and were looking to do partial upgrades. And we just thought, partial upgrades, it's difficult in a hospital. You want to do a full upgrade. And that's when we started working with CHG and realizing that we needed some different solution-oriented programs for the customers. And that kind of falls into, we were talking earlier about, a mission or a vision of an organization. That's truly to support your customers and give them these innovative solutions in order for them to, perform the best they can for patient care. And we're finding they just weren't able to perform that level of patient care they wanted to.
Interesting. So, Susan, you run the sales organization for Canada,
Yes.
And obviously you have a global view as well. What are you seeing? Like, what are you hearing from your sales team? What are you hearing from the global side in terms of some of the challenges or the barriers that you're facing as well? So we talked about the financial. What else do you see that you're facing today?
Well, slow decision making is huge.
Okay.
Is a number one. So first of all, they want to do the change. We venture in, we evaluate, we demonstrate, we talk about upgrading, and then it gets stalled.
Mhm.
And it's because they just don't have the financial support. And I think that's happening right across globally. As we talk to other subsidiaries of Karl Storz, the decision making takes a lot longer than it ever had before.
Okay, very good. So one thing you talked to me about, which I think really resonated, you briefly talked on, is the company mission and vision, and really how that relates to technology advancements. So maybe you can talk a bit more about that and the importance of technology in healthcare and where you see that going in the future.
100%. So in Karl Storz, our mission, number one, is really to enable that healthcare partner to provide the best care that they can and improve patient lives. Storz family has been all about patient care. And so when we do technology, our technology is always backward and forward compatible. So if you have a platform, if you have a video platform, if you have airway platform, and the new technology comes out, you just add into that technology because you're able to use it backward and forward. And we find with that, it's huge for our customers. They're not depleting their current product to bring new product in, just adding on. So when we looked at the financial model, the residual value was tremendous because at the end of the day, that product still was worth of valued. And then all they had to do was add components to do that upgrade for the technology.
So you really help create a bit of a roadmap, a pathway for your hospital customers, your healthcare customers.
100%.
Yeah.
And that, just like any company, right? Your goals are your pathways.
Yeah.
Total. So yeah.
So I'm going to touch base back on your sales team. So obviously you're responsible for driving the growth for Canada. And how do you prepare? How do you help support your sales team in these conversations? Because sometimes they can be a bit intimidating or a bit difficult. What have you been doing to help that side of things?
Well, of course, you. But it's really education and taking a look at different programs. No solution will fit every customer. So it's really educating our sales team on how to present the solutions. And it's not just about revenue for an organization. It's also about how do you continue to partner with your customer and solution for the customer to provide them what they need. And our sales team, maybe I'm just a little biased, but we have, salespeople from 30 plus years with our organization. We have a solid sales team and, they are always looking to help our customers and provide programs so they can get the equipment they need.
Very, very good. So I think last year, pardon me if I quote this, but I think you had a great growth season last year. Officially, yeah.
We had a great year.
You had some double-digit growth.
We did.
I know we are a small part of that, but again, what helps contribute to that continued growth? Because you've set that bar. Now that expectation will be moving forward. And I think this really leads into what do you see as the future in having flexible financing, a renting model? What do you see going forward for that with your team?
So again, no solution will fit every customer. So I think as we saw the growth happen because of the flexibility that we provided. And with the support of CHD, to be honest with you, you supported us in the financial discussions to helped us resolve some of the terms and conditions that were required from the hospitals. You supported us where maybe we couldn't have provided the full offering as an organization. Having that financial arm within those conversations was tremendous support for us.
What do you see when you look at this in terms of when you're talking to your customers? And I know you're out in the field with your sales team, you're talking to the CFOs, you're talking to the executive teams. What are those? What do you see with those type of responses? Capital is always a big thing.
Yeah. Access to technology is a huge component. And, I think I shared with you last week in June 26, we had Global News reported on Misericordia Hospital was doing a new procedure for bladder cancer and new technology. Our hospitals don't have the funds to access that new technology. So what financing can provide them is that ability to continually preserve and increase new opportunities within the hospital. Flexible financing options is always number one, but at the end of the day, we go back to the patient care. And if you don't have good scopes, you don't have a good image in the OR, you're not providing the best you can for the patient. So to me, it really goes back to technology advancement within the hospitals.
And so thank you for that. And also when you're talking to your hospitals, I know you get pretty in depth and it's going to be through RFPs and it's going to be through consultation directly. What do you do to help mitigate or how to manage those financial solutions with them? Do you have to really talk them through, explain it? Is it a bit of hand-holding in that process, or how does that really look?
100%. But at the end of the day, I think what's happened, what COVID made us realize is that as equipment ages, so does the cost of repair.
Okay. Yes.
So operational budgets are going up. And it's like having an older vehicle. We were talking earlier this morning about when do you replace your vehicle? And at the same time, costs are escalating on the older equipment.
Yeah.
And that is where the question comes in, is it time to replace it? And take some of those operational costs and put it to financing. So the service costs get reduced. There's still an operational cost of the leasing, but at the same time, you're now performing better at the end of the day with new equipment. So I think it's making them feel that they can relieve that old equipment. I know CHG does a great positioning where they'll actually come back and give a percentage back for the older equipment. And the hospitals really value that because that allows them to even go further and bring in more equipment with that, the dollars back that CHG gives them.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point is I know when we speak to a lot of the hospitals, it's a couple of things come up when financing, leasing come into place is, what happens to the equipment at the end?
Yeah.
And how is that managed? And what are the options at the end? I know we have customers that at 5-year period, they want that new equipment.
Yeah.
Others may want to extend. And so talk to me a bit about it. I think it's something you explained to me, how you care for your equipment and how you manage it from a warranty
Sure.
perspective. I think that's very interesting is how you've adjusted your business this way. Yeah.
So what's been around, I guess, for about 20 plus years in Karl Storz is our Protection One agreement. And it goes back from very early days when Mrs. Storz felt that a repaired scope was not a good scope, that you always had to have a new scope. So when our scopes come back, we replace it with a newly manufactured product. So the residual value maintains is fairly high. When you have to upgrade a platform, you don't upgrade the full platform, you upgrade a percentage of the platform.
Okay.
So our video towers, you never are dismantling and bringing in a brand new tower. You're adding components, just like when you went from HD to SD to HD to 4K within the video tower, there's components. And that same as you saw in the blue light therapy.
Yes.
You have your tower, now you add your component of your PDD light source and your PDD scope. So you're not bringing in a brand new tower, you're just adding componentries. So if you have a lease, all you're doing is adding a section onto that lease and you're building on the lease. And at the end of the day, the residual value is still very high for that equipment.
So it makes it, and very good. So I know, again, you're representing the view to Canada. I'd be interested in understanding more, maybe from a North American or even a global view of what do you think you're seeing from Karl Storz globally? Where would they be moving? Would it be something that they want to embrace more? Is it something they want to see more options behind leasing?
100%. I just looked at a dashboard yesterday and other parts of some other subsidiaries, and their capital leasing is definitely, you can see the chart moving forward. So it's happening right across globally. I think we're seeing it in the UK. We're definitely seeing it in the US. Mexico, has shown interest in doing similar offerings. And it's just coming as a need from our customers really trying to provide the solution they need. So 100%, it is definitely moving globally.
So now there comes, and now obviously we talked a bit about this before. What is the thought process, or how do you kind of choose the vendor you're going to partner with? Like, what kind of things come into your mind to think about? These are the considerations of a partner that I want to work with. And I know many of the attendees today are manufacturers. So maybe what advice would you give them to say, hey, this is the kind of lookouts or watchouts, and these are the kind of attributes you want to look for?
I said flexibility.
Okay. Yeah, big one.
Definitely flexibility. Our hospitals need us to be flexible with the changing healthcare, moving from public to private. We service, Paul, we service GPOs, health authorities, the private clinics that are coming up, everywhere through Canada. Also the veterinarian market. We have a huge veterinarian market, even the local vet down the street. So to us, our customers are not the same. They're very different. And when it comes to flexibility and also, I think just, our main values that we have is integrity, respect, trust, and continuous improvement. Our huge one is, and I think is where extremely important, is continuous improvement. So when we work with CHG, we're always changing. You know, when we initially started
Yes.
with the
Mhm.
East,
Yeah.
and then from what we finished with was completely different than what we started with. And CHG was flexible for our customer, which supported for us to bring that equipment in.
Okay. Thank you. Are there key factors you look at as well? Is it a company that has a background and knowledge of healthcare? Is it a company that has the ability to manage the assets after term? Like, what are the things that you would see there as well?
I think the biggest positive for us working in the East that we did so well in was the TESMA project,
Okay.
which was, you know, asset management that you offered the hospital. That really intrigued them. I think they're moving towards that direction
Yes.
for you to support them in that. So it wasn't just dropping and walking. It was dropping and working and partnering with them, the whole solution. So to us, it again goes back to that flexibility. Not only that is bringing old equipment, partnering, providing them value for the old equipment, moving forward when the new equipment comes in, supporting them and taking care of that equipment. And also working with us. So you're working with our accounting, you have a good close relationship with a couple of our accounting executives.
Yes. Yeah.
And so the partnership is working extremely well because, you know, they will sit down with you and discuss what the customer needs, and you bring in that solution. What we can offer from a product, our high quality products, along with a financial solution is a win-win for the customer.
Oh, thank you. So I was doing some research earlier today, kind of looking at, where's this industry going from a healthcare rental leasing market. So I saw a CAGR growth of 9.2% from the year 2022 to 2030. And kind of further to that is they expect it to reach globally about 210 billion by 2027.
Oh.
And it's interesting, and I think this is a bit of a sweet spot for you. The main segment driving that is the diagnostic equipment, and then into therapeutic equipment and then patient monitoring equipment. Be interesting to see, what do you think's driving that, that growth happening, which is pretty dynamic growth, but also more importantly, what do you think's the healthcare factors driving that diagnostic equipment? Is it technology, patient need? Is it a combination of all these factors?
100%. And I think our patients are becoming smarter.
Good point. Yeah.
Right. And before a patient didn't have the Google or the, go onto the internet and figure out, having their own suggestions as they're walking into that office and just take what the doctor is indicating. They challenge it. They want better care. I think people are becoming very health conscientious of, aging. People don't want to age. No one wants to age. But at the same, so, I think the hospitals have to start looking at providing a different level of care, and that involves new technology.
Yeah.
Right. So when people see the blue light documentation, the global news, if they're getting bladder cancer diagnosed, they want that therapy. They're going and they're demanding better care. And wait lines, the doctors still start doing some virtual visits because of the backlog.
Yeah.
And people are taking their health in their own hands.
So it's a good point. And if we speak specifically to Canada and parts of Europe, it is a public healthcare system compared to the US, which is private. So there is that component of budget constraints, patient demand, and managing that ongoing, which is, I think that's part of what you deal with on an ongoing basis, isn't it?
Well, that's what we're seeing in the private clinics. Well, excuse me, evolving, right?
Yeah, starting to meet that need that's been left open by our public system. Yeah, no, it's definitely true.
Excuse me.
That's okay. So I want to talk a bit about your technology. I know that is a bit of the heart and core of your company, of your organization. Maybe you can tell me a bit about how that comes to fruition. Is it something that the organization's always working on? Is it something that you seek your patient in, or your hospital input? Where does that all come from?
So Karl Storz has been known for quality products for years, right? Large R&D in Germany, but it's also from the surgeons.
Okay.
we entertain quite a few conversations with our surgeons, but also our sales team. Our sales team will come back and, we'll say, can we change this? We want to change this on a scope. We want to do this different in our bipolar. We need this. So it comes back, I think, two ways, R&D, but also from the field, the surgeons from the field and our account executives from the field.
Okay, thank you. So something that, Susan, I know we attend some meetings together with healthcare hospital executives. It's not always open arms when we approach, leasing options and finance options. It sometimes has, I would say, a bit of a negative connotation around it.
100%.
So again, I'm interested in understanding. I know how we kind of deal with that. We talk about the advantages of having a flexible solution to meet modern technology.
Yeah.
I know for Canada, there's this notion that's been ever present about ownership. Having full ownership is better than renting.
Yes.
I see a smile on that.
Yeah, 100%.
So maybe talk to me a bit about some of the challenges you faced and how do you kind of navigate those and really show the benefits.
So I'm probably going to age myself here, Paul, but back you don't lease, you don't rent.
Yes, yeah.
You own, right?
Yeah.
And the mindset is really entrenched in many individuals. I think when they start seeing the benefits of the flexibility of the leasing, the rent to own, the bundling of product that they can bring into the hospital, and then actually see the benefits of patient care, I think that's when they start opening their eyes and realizing how they're stopping that patient care, how they're limiting the patient care. And when they start viewing what other facilities have done and what they're moving forward with, I think that starts opening up different conversation for them. And so it's sites talking to other sites and what they're doing.
Yeah, that referral side.
And that referral is definitely helping us bring in some different solutions to customers.
Yeah, no, I think that's important, and I think that's what we've seen from us in the market here, especially Canada, and I know I'll speak to UK and Europe. It is that ongoing education process. And I can say from my experience, what I've seen in the US as well, from a leasing side with the private hospitals, it makes more sense because they do want the current technology. They want the latest. They want to be able to track those patients in, and having ownership of a old piece of equipment doesn't really meet that needs whatsoever. So you talked also, you maybe talked a bit about one of your success stories. Do you have another success story that you can share where you're able to use some flexible leasing solutions to kind of help you navigate through an RFP and an eventual win?
So yeah, that's you're jumping ahead to so yeah, we have we start those discussions before an RFP comes out.
Okay, great.
Before an RFP comes out. And that is so important. Once the RFP comes out, it's already structured for us.
Good point. Yeah, that's
excuse me.
I'll let you go. So it's interesting you say that, Susan, because that's something that, again, we see in our market for sure, is that consideration or thought of asking for different financing options. Wasn't or isn't always present in many RFPs. And what I can say is ones that you've been involved in early, talking with the hospital, the healthcare authority, is bringing, hey, guys, maybe open up and look at financial options that you can put into this, and looking. It doesn't mean they're going to go down that path, but it means that they're opening their eyes to understand that. And I think that takes a lot of work and commitment to get that hospital or healthcare authority in that place.
So we never used to see those options before in the RFP.
Okay.
Now it's like, give us your financing options, give us what you can offer from a rent to own to a price per procedure from the service side of it.
Yeah.
So you're encompassing everything within that leasing agreement, the service side and the capital side together.
So it's interesting too, then that really puts a pressure on your competitors to figure out what
100%.
they're doing as well and be able to navigate that. Yeah. Because that can give you a competitive edge in a RFP process for sure.
And we are starting to see it too, also in integration in the
Oh,
hospital.
interesting.
And
Okay.
that's such a high value product that they never used to think of financing. Now we're starting to see that come back.
Yeah. And I think that's something that, again, we're starting to see where hospitals actually want to look at a finance partner
Right.
and have that in place, or even have one or two in place. So they're competitively looking at
Mhm.
their bids and being able to evaluate
The options.
yeah, and move forward from there. Yeah. I want to jump back just to your sales team. And just again, just maybe drill down a little more to find out, are they feeling comfortable? Do they feel comfortable in that financial conversation if they're meeting with a, luckily a CFO or anything like that?
Mhm.
Do they start to feel a little more comfortable in that space?
I'm going to say 50-50.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
You definitely helped that.
Yeah. Okay.
So it is, I think they realize that by bringing CHG into those conversations, it helps ease the conversation. They start the initial conversation. I'm going to say 50% of our sales team is very comfortable talking the financing. But then at the end of the day, the master lease agreement, the full documentation, it's where CHG comes in and supports us. I think, our question, we had a sales meeting a little while ago, and we talked about, who leases their vehicle today, who does not, and why do you not, and why do you? And what
Yeah.
it really came down to
Interesting.
is, the evolving of requiring a car for sales, but also they live in their vehicle. They want the best
Yeah.
vehicle they can have.
Yeah.
So, they really do go to that leasing side of for the vehicles. But I think once you get into have those conversations, that's when things open up. That's when the sky opens up and the customer goes, it's an aha moment for the customer and actually for our sales team too sometimes, because then they realize the ease of upgrading that customer and the ease of continuing that partnership and strengthening that partnership. And it is just a great conversation once everything clicks in.
Oh, thank you. So I'm interested in understanding, so what are some of the benefits you would see on your side working with a finance partner? So, example I would give you, is it help reduce the cost objections?
Sure.
Is it, are you paid faster? Does that help? So what other things do you see that, you've gone through, you've
Yeah.
kind of vetted your finance partner.
Yeah.
Now, what do you see as benefits for the organization?
Exactly Paul, what you said, I think our rep out east, when they worked together with CHG, we went in, the customer was not interested in leasing. We looked at taking the financial burden on our organization because they didn't have all the money up front. So we looked at a different structure of payment, and then finally, we tracked back and forth, and it was, I just kind of said, why don't we bring CHG in for that conversation?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're not a bank.
Yeah.
We're not a financing company. We are a manufacturer of quality products. And so when that relationship opened is when the customers started listening and realizing that they could bring all the equipment and they need it. We saw our revenue upfront, paid upfront. We didn't have to have that worry of financing the product. CHG took that worry for us. And then the customer, did a nice conversion, brought a new product in. Now they're just, it's a great, again, another great
Story.
story. And I think what we did wrong, Paul, if I go back and self-reflect, is really brought you in sooner.
Okay.
Because we could have looked at, a value of the equipment that they had. You could have evaluated what they had. We maybe potentially could have given them some dollars back for the old equipment.
Yeah.
And I look at past deals that we did over the last year, we probably should have had you at the table a little bit sooner.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Something that I think you touched on there, which I do see working with your team and yourself, is that what I'll say, that customer stickiness. It is like changing a bank. once you're kind of in that groove of your products, your technology, and the finance solution, it really creates that stickiness. And it's kind of hard to break at that point, isn't it?
It 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, very. Okay, so it's interesting. So when you see that, Susan, we have complex contractual terms and end of lease management. I would say those are the two big things that I know we come across. So what's your take on that?
100%. We saw those complex contractual terms, and
Yes.
we end up just giving them to you. We definitely support our equipment 100%.
Yeah.
We again don't just place it and walk away. We're there, but what the health authority was asking from us, we could not do.
Okay.
So those terms you took and helped us maneuver through those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say there is extra paperwork to go through. It is a financial transaction. But it can be made somewhat seamless if it's well explained, well outlined, and the key stakeholders really understand what's going on. The end of lease management. So again, it's interesting that it has come up here, and that doesn't surprise me, because I think that is something that I think, as a manufacturer, you worry about. I know the healthcare hospitals worry about that.
Yeah.
What do you think helps alleviate that? Is it helping reassure, or is it clearly just communicating what happens and what the options are? Like, what do you think on that side?
So I think when you have, I believe when you have those master lease agreement discussions,
Yeah,
that must come up,
yeah,
right?
it does. Yeah,
And I know from individuals who are not interested in moving forward with leasing, they really go back into, well, what am I going to do at the end of the 5 years?
Yes.
I don't own it.
yeah,
And my comment is, well, do you really want to own it at the end of 5 years?
Yeah.
Because it becomes more of a liability due to the cost of servicing the product, right? We're again fortunate where I believe our equipment is made for the long term. So after the 5 years, there's still value in that equipment, but technology is changing. So if you can add a component or change a component from that equipment, but still being brand new. So, we're fortunate where I think when you explain the end of the lease, but it's not end of a partnership. It's not end of a discussion. And
That's a
they're
good point,
there
yeah.
to, upgrade the technology. So it's a very easy upgrade. At the end of 5 years, you're not going back to RFP for millions of dollars. You're upgrading maybe, $50,000, $100,000 of equipment, but just bringing you into the new technology by upgrading it. So I think the discussions when you're going in doing the initial lease agreement, and they're feeling that there's a good residual value coming at the end, it's a positive conversation.
Oh, very good. Good. Well, Susan, I'm going to do a bit of a recap here,
Sure.
just in terms of what we discussed and the key takeaways.
Yeah.
The key takeaways I had. So, if I start off the top, I think the first thing we can say, and let me know if you agree, is healthcare world has changed. The need and the requirement for technology advancements is somewhat critical now. Yeah. And, manufacturers are really striving to bring new technology. The key barrier that we see existing in most countries around the globe is the capital. Okay. So I really took, that's something that really resonates. The other point is there's still a lot of uncertainty and hesitancy around leasing and that rental model, and it doesn't have that perceived value. That's the other factor I see. And then the last one is, the key point, and again, for many of the audience, would be looking at your vendor selection and what you want to get from your leasing partner or your financial partner as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else I missed, or anything else that you'd like to add to that?
I think it comes down to the end result, Paul, and that's patient care around the world. We are a global organization, and we are looking to provide the best patient care. And in order to do that, our healthcare partners have to have the product to bring that patient care. So I really, to me, it goes back and, you know, as an organization, we want to be a one solution vendor for
Yeah.
our customers. CHG helps fill in a gap that we had to be that one solution provider. We look at reusable equipment. We have disposable now too, of course, going into the industry.
Yeah.
And with that, you can bundle it all together as one solution.
Yeah.
But it supports, as we move forward, CHG is supporting us to provide that patient care.
No, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you're very welcome. So thank you, Susan. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
You know, truly, I love partnering with you and your team. And I think what we'll do at this point is open it up for some Q&A and pass it back to Craig here.
Great. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Susan. Really appreciate that. So there are a lot of questions that came in advance, as I mentioned, as well as some that are coming in as we speak. So feel free to continue to add those. I'll try to do my best to get them answered. I want to start first on the CHG side a little bit, because there are a lot of questions about coverage, meaning countries, as well as you know, the types of equipment. So let's start first with, from a CHG perspective, German-based multinational. You cover 40 plus countries, I believe, but maybe just give us a quick overview of that.
Yeah. Thank you, Craig. Yeah. So it is a German-based company. It's been around for 45 years. It is a global company. We've expanded lately into Australia, India. You know, off the top of my head, it's over 35, I can confidently say, in countries. We specialize in three main areas, three segments. Number one, healthcare. And this is not in order of our business, but it is, in my mind, healthcare. IT is where the company really started. It's a history from, and what we call industrial. And industrial is everything that could be forklifts, construction equipment, that side of things. So CHG has really worked at the sustainability and life cycle management. So you heard that in healthcare side, that it's very important about what happens to my products, whether it's IT, healthcare, what happens to it at the end of life? Well, we put into a secondary market, refurbish, we put them into a secondary market in other spots around the globe as well.
Okay, and so specifically, there were a couple questions here. One was about Mexico, coverage there, and the other was European countries in general. So do you want to comment on those two?
So a couple of things. I would say, you know, it's easy to go to our website, our corporate website. You'll see all the countries. But yeah, we have a big business in Mexico and in Europe as well. That's where we have in most of the European countries, obviously Germany, UK, very strong representation of CHG there as well. Especially in UK, which is very similar to our Canadian market, very strong in healthcare there as well. Germany, healthcare. A lot of German companies, healthcare companies as well. So yeah.
Okay. And then let's talk a little bit about the types of equipment and the range of equipment. This is one of the first questions I asked you when we started chatting last year, I guess, when we first connected on this topic. But so specifically, are there types of healthcare equipment that you believe are best suited or well suited for leasing as opposed to purchasing? So I'll start there, and then I'd like to ask a little bit about the range as well from a cost perspective. Is it, you know, is there a certain floor or a certain ceiling? What's the range? So let's start first with the type of equipment.
Yeah. Okay. So great question. I think, as you heard Susan talk about, is healthcare technology is rapidly evolving. So when we look at types of equipment, diagnostic equipment is very big. Therapeutic equipment. So this could be into scopes, it could be into MRIs, it could be into pumps, it could be CT scans. Equipment that, and I would give it from a year side, that probably has a life cycle anywhere from, you know, 5 years to 10 years. That would be the sweet spot of the equipment that would be ideal for our financial solutions. If they're long-term assets, they're probably not a space that's as ideal, because they are going to maintain and just be long-term assets. I think the key here is, and again, as Susan, you know, quite well articulated, is there's rapid development happening, yes, and for scopes, that new technologies, new preventative measures are coming out that you want to make sure the hospital has the latest and greatest. So that leasing model of 5 to 6 years, and in this case, works out very well to get the latest upgrades, or to have a system that can be built upon as well.
And then what about dollar? So a couple questions around dollar sort of floor versus ceiling of, or what the range, the sweet spot, however you want to address that.
Yeah. So we deal with at hospitals, so it can be, as low as, say, $50,000, $60,000, and it goes up into the millions. It can be upwards of $3, $4, $5 million. It would depend on the application and the asset. So when we look at scopes, for example, the project we did with Susan here was multiple hospitals, multiple scopes across many hospitals. So it was a significant size. Sometimes it's one unit in MRI, for example, that could be anywhere from $1.4 to $2 million. So it does change. It's really based on what the hospital, the healthcare authority is looking for.
Then I think for both of you on this one, if there's a disposable or a consumable component to your sale, how does that fit into to this equation in terms of leasing and so on?
Yeah, I can open up on that one, then I'll pass it to Susan. So it's a great question, because it does come up quite often. So what we see, as in life, people like the idea of one consolidated payment. That idea, I'm not going to pay 3 or 4 vendors, or I don't have to do 3 or 4 payments, that one consolidated payment. So that's something that we now incorporate into our agreements. So it could be for the actual medical device, and then it could be for the supplies, or even the warranty or service that's applied with that as well. And that's all included into one payment. So the hospital or healthcare authority can manage that single payment rather than having a multiple stream. What that does is provide cost certainty. And that's something that we hear across healthcare today, is give me predictability and give me cost certainty. You heard Susan talk about saying, hey, when products age out or get to the end of life, the warranty costs start to go up, the service costs go up. Those are uncertain costs that really affect healthcare and hospitals. So, and I'll pass that to you, Susan. Yeah.
Reinstate. It's that one fee price per month. They want to know what their budget is for the year. They want to budget not only 1 year. We're seeing 10-year RFPs come out now.
Yeah.
And where there's a component of consumables within that RFP or that request. So it's bundling a certain amount of consumables into with the capital, and providing the one price with service, capital, consumables all into $1 value.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting, Susan, because I think you're seeing the effect again of changing really the way that procurement goes to market, and saying, the certainty of what the expenses will be in the future starts to rank up more of a higher importance, rather than just always getting the least price. It is about technology. It's about price certainty and cost certainty. Yeah.
And they are, I think, getting the best price there. You see so many RFPs. If you look back a year or two ago, the RFPs were sporadic. Right now it's 3, 4, 7, 8, 10 RFPs a month. So, the price is there. They are getting, I believe, a fair market price. And what we're doing is just bundling into that one monthly payment.
Which makes sense.
I thought your comment earlier about getting involved in the RFP process prior to the RFP being released, otherwise leasing doesn't become an option in the RFP itself, was really interesting. So, and just because of the global audience, RFP, request for proposal, bids, tenders,
Thank you,
formal purchasing processes, going through GPOs or group purchasing organizations, there's any number of ways that might happen. But I thought it was a really interesting comment you made about getting involved early so that becomes an option in the RFP at least. So interesting. So we cover on our platform medical device, equipment, supplies, veterinary, and dental. I was interested, Susan, earlier you mentioned something about the veterinary space. Are you using leasing in that space as well?
Yes.
And do you find a different reception? I mean, hospitals with sort of bigger bigger budgets, bigger operations, down to smaller veterinary clinics, dental clinics for that matter, if you're in the dental space. What's your experience been with on the veterinary side?
So there is somebody else who takes care of the vet side with the organization, but I'm fairly, my office is right next door to his, so we talk a lot. Veterinarians, not just the clinics, so it's also the universities. So they're fairly, same with teaching, human medicine teaching and veterinarian teaching universities. They play a huge component in our business in Canada and the US. So we are heavily involved in the larger clinics, but also some of the smaller ones.
Yeah.
And it is more of the vets don't want to use their personal line of credit. So they'll come to us requesting from financial support, especially if they're expanding or if they're putting into an OR room, or the even recent one in King City is doing an integration room with us. So it's very similar. People love their animals. People love their pets, right? So even though healthcare could be, staggering here budgets, private money and veterinarians are still expanding.
Yeah, we've seen that as well, yeah.
Still growing, right? So, 100%, there is definitely a desire for financing, and they're more entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
So they're more willing to take, if CHG wants to take the risk, they definitely want to take the risk too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they have a different mindset to it. Yeah.
Totally
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
mindset.
They understand what the concept of cash flow is, and
Yeah.
100%.
This question is, I think, for both of you. Well, actually, let me ask this one first, Paul, because I don't want to forget. There was a question that came in around asset management, the asset management tool you mentioned.
Yeah.
If you could just touch it quickly. I know we responded, it gave them, and we'll give your contact information afterwards. People want to,
thank you.
See that or hear about it more closely. But just in general, can you quick overview what the asset management tool is?
Yeah, so it's something that CHG came out with quite a few years ago, and it's evolved over the years. What we found is many organizations, the ability to manage the assets. So that's to understand when the asset is due, what's the monthly payment, what's left over in it. And even down to something that we're putting forth now is in large hospitals is to be able to tag them with RFID to actually locate those the medical equipment, for the sake of scopes and pumps. Those are items that can go missing sometimes or just misplaced. So
They have feet.
yeah, they have feet. Yeah. So we create this system called Tesma. And what Tesma does is it's a cloud-based system that for every deal we do, it's something that we include in with our deals. And it gives the end user the ability to track and manage those. So it's great for financial reporting. It's great to when year-end reporting. It's great to understand what's happening with the devices. And you can imagine, like when we're dealing with large-scale hospitals, multi-site hospitals, or a province, in this case, having that visual, that ability to read what's going on, the asset is critical. And we find it's something that's usually done manually. Usually somebody in finance has a spreadsheet managing it. Well, we take that off their shoulders and run it this way.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Yeah, if you have more questions about that, I think that's direct for Paul afterwards. I'll give you his email address.
Yeah.
Susan and Paul, I'm curious, you talked a little bit today about the private-public healthcare mix, and we know that globally those numbers are all over the map, from 80-20 one way to 80-20 the other way in many cases. But I'm curious, like Susan, from your perspective first, do you find a different appetite for this financing option in the private hospitals and clinics versus public? And maybe Paul expand on it more globally.
No, we've been talking through,
Yeah.
I think over the last week, because there are some active private clinics coming up through Ontario. Quite a few actually out east in Quebec. And they are looking at financing because, I don't think they're sure themselves how much money they're going to get from the government, right?
Yeah.
That's not been clear. I don't think anyone's really clear from the public funding to where that public money,
Where the line's going to be.
Going to be.
Yeah.
So I think they're hesitating. They have the opportunity to open these clinics to take some of the backlog of the surgeries that are overflowing right now in our hospitals. But I don't know if they're sure of what that clinic will be paid from a public value.
Yeah, so it's an interesting, Craig. It's a great
Yeah.
discussion. We live in the province of Ontario, which just passed the legislation to have private clinics. Generally in Canada, private clinics mean they are separate from the hospital, but they're still billing to the provincial health authority, whether it's OHIP or the BC, or so they're billing that for procedures. But it is an entrepreneurial mindset. So what we find is most of the founders, the people behind these companies, understand that those two things about, hey, we don't want to tie up our credit line, our cash flow in large sum investments. And, they're putting in some heavy investment in. And again, we want to be able to service and provide that enhanced patient care. So we want to have the best technology, and they always want to have that best technology. So that's the main factors we're seeing. And it's new territory for Ontario. Other provinces have been into it for a little more for a while, but I think we're going to see this grow and continue to grow because it's just the only way we can manage our healthcare here in Canada.
Still a lot of unanswered questions, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my instinct there would be that the private hospitals, like I spent a lot of time in the U.S. healthcare in particular, but that on the private side, they'd be very open to leasing equipment based on all the things you described, attracting customers as opposed to, public hospitals. But yeah, any further comments, maybe afterwards we can send out as part of our follow-up if there's a CHG perspective on that on a more global basis. But my gut would be private, but would be really attractive. There's also a related question here about NGOs and charities and whether they may be good targets for financing as well.
Yeah, so it's
a comment quickly on that.
Yeah, Craig, it's a great question, and actually I can comment on that. I can say in Canada here, we work in collaboration with a lot of the foundations, so the hospital foundations. And what I would say is they would be the ones that typically would raise the money. They tend to be very cause focused. So, hey, we're going to get a new MRI for the hospital. We can actually, what we do is we can help them rather than waiting a year or two to purchase that equipment. We can accelerate that and say, still raise the money, but let's purchase that equipment today. So foundations are very critical, and it's something that we work in collaboration with hospitals and even with the medical manufacturer as well.
And I'm just noticing, so CHG is online with us as well and chimed in on that last topic and said that, yes, private hospitals are for-profit in many cases and generally lease more due to costs on extended maintenance plans. So validating what we just talked about. All right, I'm gonna pause there. I know there are more questions, but we're up against the time limit here.
Yes.
So let me just quickly share my screen. We'll wrap up. First, I want to thank Susan and Paul for your time. Really thought this was an interesting topic today. I was excited about it coming in and more as I listened to you talk about it. So thank you both for your time. Really appreciate it. I know our audience will appreciate it as well. We will send a follow-up to everyone with a recording as well. Not everyone can attend live. They sign up, register, but can't necessarily attend live. We have another session coming up I wanted to point out just quickly, which is coming up on the 27th of July on successfully entering and driving growth in the UK market. So as part of our market entry series, we've done the US, Germany, we did the Gulf states, Gulf countries, as well as many others. So that's one that's coming up. I'll also just mention that our foreign exchange and payment solution, we are currently waitlisting customers for this. So this is roughly 3% savings on FX transactions globally. It also helps you eliminate currency volatility. You can lock in rates for up to 350 days. So really excited about this. If you're interested, contact me. On that note, here's Paul's contact information. We'll funnel any Susan questions through Paul, just out of respect to Susan's time. And so if you have any additional questions, reach out to Paul. You can also reach out to myself. I am going to stay on now just to do a quick demo, probably take about 5 or 6 minutes. So on that, again, I want to thank Paul and Susan. Really appreciate your time today, and I think the audience did as well. And feel free to drop off as I move into a quick demo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, for those of you, many of you that signed up today are already on the platform, but I will do a quick overview of the platform for you. So you should see coming up on my screen now the platform itself. I'll just step through it very quickly. If you're interested in signing up, it is free to join, free to try all the functionality. The platform is basically the world's only global medtech partnering platform. So it allows you to really grow your business in two ways. One is drive more sales through your existing partnerships. So whether you're a manufacturer working with distributors or distributors working with manufacturers. And the other way is to find new partners and grow through new partners in existing markets or new markets for you as well. So I'll just really quickly show you that we have market discovery, managing your current partners, finding new partners, posting opportunities to find new partners, all in the platform. So I'll show you very quickly just the global view. If you are a manufacturer, this would be your view of your distribution globally. In some markets, you might be going direct or through subsidiaries. In other markets, you might be using distributors. And what you see here are my active markets are green, my target markets are purple. Adding a country as a target market is as simple as flagging it as a target market. But we also cover about 105 countries for 800 to 1,000 data points each, so you can better understand the market. So for example, we just talked about the private-public mix in healthcare. One of the first things you see when you drill into a country, I just chose Turkey in this case, is how large is the market. All of our data is cited and sourced here. But you also see the public-private mix, which is in the expenditure and financing piece. So in the case of Turkey, for example, it's a 78 to 22% public-private mix, which would be interesting. But we also cover off things like spending by function, spending by medical devices, and by type. In the overview section, we cover an overview of the healthcare background, as well as medical devices and equipment. We cover off assets and employment. So if you want to know about the number of hospitals, number of clinics, number of beds, acute care beds, veterinary clinics, ambulatory care facilities, et cetera, that's all in here. And we also get into number of physicians, clinical specialists, surgical specialists, and so on. And again, these data points are all cited and sourced. We cover off surgeries by clinical area, as well as diagnostic exams, healthcare trends and indicators that might be useful as you think about the applicability of your technology in these markets. And then lastly, regulatory, which is really just an overview of who is responsible for regulatory. In this case, is the TMMDA, with links to their site, as well as license types. And if they're part of a multinational regime, in this case CE mark, then that's in there as well. So we do that on 105 countries, even though we have distributors and manufacturers in over 150 countries in the platform. And it's as simple as clicking on a market and view that market, and you can learn all about whether it's the world's largest market, the US, right down to the 105th ranked country, all covered in here as well. The second piece then is finding partners. So finding partners is, there's really two ways to do it. You can search for and try to connect with partners, or you can post an opportunity which says, I'm looking for something specific in the way of a new partnership, and allow them to respond to you, almost more like a job posting. So I'll show you both of those very quickly. If you are a manufacturer, and let's say you're looking for distributors or sales agents, and in markets covered or where they're headquartered, you might have, for example, a distributor that's based in the Czech Republic that sells into Poland, Hungary, and other countries. Markets covered would be where they sell to. Headquarter country is where they're based. In this particular example, I'm going to use Brazil. So I want distributors that are headquartered in Brazil, and that's going to take our 44,000 companies down to 1,142 Brazilian distributors. From there, I'm also going to say I want cardiovascular distributors. That's going to be 100 of those. And by the way, you can actually see some flags here that this particular company was at Hospitalar recently. This one was at FIME and Hospitalar, or FIME, depending on how you say that. So we badge about 8 to 10 conferences a year, so you can use it as a tool to understand who's going to be at the conferences and reach out to them in advance, or and so on. So anyway, as you look at the company itself, this is Valflux, a distributor in Brazil. You can view their profile. What do they do? How long they've been around? Who do they sell to? What are their product categories? You could view a more detailed overview of the company. You could view their website. You can certainly open up their LinkedIn page from here as well directly. I'm just going to let that come up. There we go. I'm doing this very quickly just to give you a quick sense. So again, you can do that across all these companies, and then when you're ready to, you could connect to them. Now, opportunity posts is a more of an inbound way of doing the same thing, which is to find new partners. So what opportunity posts are, and I should have said, sorry, really quickly as I was talking about find partners. If you're a distributor on today's call and you're looking for suppliers, you can also do the same thing. So I'm looking for manufacturers, let's say, of cardiovascular products, and I want them to be from certain parts of the world or not from certain parts of the world. You could do that. So these are now manufacturers of cardiovascular products globally. And maybe I want to get a little more specific and just see if any of them mention catheters, because that's what I'm looking for specifically right now. Would be, there you go. So 108 companies globally that mention catheters as part of their cardiovascular offerings in the market. So again, if we sort of take that example and say, I'm a distributor in the US and I need catheters, you could do what I just described, but you could also post an opportunity and say, we're looking for catheters, and it would target directly those companies that would be a fit and allow them to reach out to you through a promoted opportunity post. So I'm just going to show you a couple examples. These are all posted opportunities. So for example, this is a manufacturer, a US manufacturer looking for distributors in Austria. And they describe what they offer in the way of alternative and cosmetic plastic surgery product categories. And you could respond to that posting specifically. One of the great things about opportunity posts is that as you view this from your perspective, it will actually match score your company, your profile, what you're looking for with the company that posted the opportunity, and it will actually show you then a match score. Now, I'm in my Caribou in this case, so my match scores are kind of irrelevant. But if you're a distributor of cardiovascular products in Brazil and a company posts an opportunity for, hey, we're looking for Brazilian cardiovascular distributors, that would be a very high match score for you in the platform. So again, there are great examples here of manufacturers looking for distributors, as well as distributors looking for manufacturers. Here's a good example. This is a US-based distributor that is a woman-owned small business that does work with the US federal government, military, Veterans Affairs, hospitals, et cetera. And they are specifically looking for corneal analyzers. That's a very specific opportunity. And if I was a manufacturer of that kind of product, it would be very high match score, and I could reach out to this company directly. So finding partners, discovering markets, that's one way to grow your business. The other way, is, and in many ways, more powerful way to do that is to use our platform as a partner management tool to get more growth, more sales, more interaction, more collaboration with your existing partners. And that's done through something called My Partners. This is a tool set that we provide in the platform that allows you to manage your partners, collaborate, and really drive more successful relationships. So whether you're a distributor and you're working with suppliers, or whether you're a supplier working with distributors, it's a partnering tool for both of those scenarios. It's even helpful for market consultants and regulatory consultants who want to work with both of those partners together in this platform. So in this case, let's assume I'm a manufacturer and I've got distribution in many markets around the world. So in Argentina, I've got 2 different distributors. In Australia, I've got 2 in Brazil, 3 in Canada, 1 in Chile, et cetera. I'm viewing this based on markets now and the partners in those markets. I could also switch this around and view it by my partners. So for example, in the case of Medic Supply, they actually cover Canada and the US for me. In the case of BMed Argentina, they're actually distributing in Argentina, Chile, and Uruguay for me. So either way you decide to view that group by market, group by partner, it really gives you a very powerful way to pull that together. Now, inside of each of these partnerships, you can decide whether you want to invite your partner in to collaborate with you in here. So for example, in this case, I have invited Brad from Robinson Medical Systems, my distributor. Don't worry too much about this down here. But this is my company, this is my distributor, and we've invited them in to work with us in this space. They would then have access to effectively only that line you're seeing here, which allows us to do sales forecasting together. We can have conversations interacting between myself and the partner, people on my team and the partner. We can share files with these partners. And in fact, if I drilled in here, you'd see a whole set of tools that allow you to do forecasting, business plans, targeting things like, we need key opinion leaders in this market. How many do we need and by when? How many hospital visits do we want to do? How many in clinic trials do we want to have? All those types of things can be in here, as well as all your files and conversations. Think of it as like almost like just a partner management tool for these two partners to work together securely and collaboratively. We also, from this view, have the ability to do work with multiple partners at once. So again, let's say we're a manufacturer and you have a new update to a product. You could take your entire distribution network. So this is going to choose all of my partners around the world. Or I could be more specific and say, no, this doesn't apply to Australia. It does apply to Brazil, et cetera. In any case, you can send them a message to all the partners at once. You can attach a file or files and send them to your partners all at once. So a product update, new video, you could use a link of a YouTube video, whatever it might be, share an upload or share it via URL, and it will go out to all your partners simultaneously. And they can even ask you questions right in here, and you can respond to those questions through there as well. If you're a distributor, let's say you have a new contractual obligation or regulatory obligation or market obligation, something along those lines, and you want to say to all your suppliers, hey, I need you to fill out this form because I need that updated for my interactions with Health Canada or with whatever group you're working with. So that allows you actually, as a distributor, you could say, okay, let me send a message to all my suppliers or share a form or a file with all my suppliers, and do that all in like 2 clicks basically, and you're done. So partner management, really, if you think about it, think about goals and expectations in the market, not just financial, but also things like number of leads, number of hospital visits, et cetera. Sharing files, having discussions. You can even do things like product launches in the market all through this platform. Now, I've mentioned a few times today we have a set of financial tools that are being released. We're currently waitlisting companies for that as we get ready for launch. This is a platform, a part of our platform that is backed by JP Morgan, Barclays, and Deutsche Bank, and allows us to basically offer incredible exchange rates on currencies, as well as hedge those currencies for up to 350 days. And if you sort of picture that from this, you could imagine distributor paying a manufacturer in this example, but saving on currency and also reducing the volatility of that currency. If you're interested in that, reach out to me. My email was up on the screen previously, and I'll bring it up again at the end here just to make sure you have it. And I'm happy to drill into that a little bit more detail. Okay, let me pause there. I'm just going to quickly share my contact information again. If you are interested in learning more about this, there's really 2 ways to do it. Reach out to me. My email address is up here. You can sign up. If you sign up, it's free. That's down the bottom of the screen. And somebody from customer care will reach out and help you with any questions you have with the platform while you try it out. Either way is fine. Reach out to me or sign up directly. I want to thank you all for staying on. It looks like quite a few people did, so I appreciate that. Hopefully you enjoyed today's webinar and learned something as well about our platform. And I wish you a great rest of the day, and thank you for joining. Bye for now, everyone.